This podcast is part of the Podcast Arcade Network.
Welcome to episode 43 of Paranormal Dads. I'm Andy.
I'm Eddie.
I'm Pat.
Join us as we go in search of the world's monsters, myths, and mysteries right here on Paranormal Dads. Oh, it's good to finally record again.
It is. We've been dealing with all kinds of illness in my family. We've been first part of the year. I think everybody in the family came down with the flu. With flu shots on board, we all still got the flu.
Yeah,
we're wiped out, and we're back. We're back to health now.
Well, we were getting like real time updates too. You were like, so and so is sick. Now she's sick. Now
You're just going down, man.
Yeah.
Now that's
rough.
paranormal.
Yeah.
Nothing scarier than your immune system in January, right?
Oh man.
Well, and nothing changes like how quickly you view a loved one too. It's like, I love you so much. Next, like 5 minutes later, you're like throwing like tissues at them and shutting the door.
Get away!
Stay in there.
Thank goodness they brought the coronavirus to Omaha now, so they're
Exactly.
being treated at the med center. So
You delete their name from your phone just so you can't get transmitted via text.
Deleting your son off your own phone.
You're dead to me, man.
Not until you're healthy.
Well, as always, we start off each show with talk about the flu and recent sightings, right, Eddie?
Oh man, recent sightings. It's my turn.
So recent sightings, I have to say this before you jump in and do your thing. I had a dream the other night, guys, and I'm only mentioning it because it's relevant to your recent sighting. I had a dream about Falkor, the luck dragon.
See?
From Neverending Story.
Yes.
Which, by the way, it's a movie from the 80s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it is. You watch it as an adult, it's kind of traumatizing because it's so scary.
As a kid, it was traumatizing too.
I mean,
we weren't ready.
Yeah.
No, it gets pretty dark in some places. But yeah, I had a dream, Falkor, the luck dragon. I was flying around through the sky, and some people may or may not know this is a thing, right? This is in the cryptid wheelhouse, isn't it, Eddie?
Yeah, I mean dragons. I mean this is one of those like, we get into like the Thunderbird discussion, but
Right.
like big winged creatures. They tend to be kind of a thing that a lot of people will chuckle at because something that big, the obvious thing is like, well, then we would know about them.
yeah, we'd see them.
Yeah, those are big. Like, how do you go about that undetected? And yeah, I don't have any solid like, well, this is why, but that's still a cryptid. I mean, it's a creature that is in myth and folklore and all these things and stories about dragons. And the funny thing about dragons is that they show up in a lot of different cultures, myth and folklore.
Sure.
Cultures that at the time had not met or talked or traded stories.
Or sent emails to each other.
Yeah, right.
It's like how South America, Asia, North America, Africa, they all got their own equivalent of a dragon type story.
Yeah.
And as they always say, most myths, come from a kernel of truth.
Yeah.
So
And, ancient alien theory, they were always like, it was a spaceship they thought was a dragon. And it's like, okay. But yeah, I mean, you got cultures in South America and then cultures in China that simultaneously are existing, but don't even know about each other, but are having these stories of these winged creatures in the sky. And even into European mythology, where not only do they have these creatures, but they also fight them and kill them, and their bones have all these healing properties and all this stuff. So dragons are an interesting.
I'm just laughing because what's the new thing nowadays? People are doing the bone broth soups or stews,
Right.
Yeah, what kind of bone broth you got in your soup? Oh, just dragon.
You got the middle you got like the Middle Ages like a hipster like
Yeah,
like
totally.
I make my own dragon bone broth. You're so basic.
Mine's from China. It's lucky. It's
Exactly.
the year of the dragon. Year of the dragon's coming up in a couple of years. That was actually a Jeopardy question from the other day.
Yeah.
So.
I think the last year of the dragon was year 2000, I think.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, because Daphne was born. Year of the dragon.
Year of the Dragon.
And if you're an 80s kid, it's the year of the double dragon, when you pick up a bat and fight off gangsters. And a chain.
Don't forget to put on your headband first.
Yes, you got to flex real hard too when you do it.
I think I was year of the chicken or something. Something
Yeah.
goofy like that.
Yeah, mine's year of the snake,
I'm
which
like,
is
that
not,
figures.
basically a dragon with no wings.
Kinda. Eddie lost his wings.
It's like a dragon without wings.
Year of the chicken for Pat.
Yeah, I
Is
think
that
so.
extra crispy or oven roasted?
Hopefully it's chicken tenders.
Pat,
A little
Pat's
bit
the noblest.
barbecue sauce.
Ooh,
Cook them up real nice.
Pat's the noblest chicken I know. What about you,
That's
Andy?
his new name in our group, the Noble Chicken.
The noble chicken. What about you, man? What's your...
I don't know. The
Oh.
year, I don't even know. I'll have to look that up. If anybody out there listening knows, my birthday is February 17th, 1981. Just had a birthday. I don't know what sign I am or whatever in the symbols. I'm an
pantheon.
Aquarius, if that means anything.
I don't think it does. Not in the Chinese zodiac.
I'm probably a sea slug.
It's meaningless. Sea slug. The most disgusting of the... Well, yeah, we gotta find that out.
Yeah, we got to find that out. We'll check it out in between segments and get back to you.
There you go.
But people still see dragons, Eddie?
So the dragons. This is a personal recent sighting, and then right on top of the sighting that I had, not a day later, an article pops up, and I'm like, "This is crazy." And then I start looking into other sightings of this, and sure as anything, there's people who still report seeing this thing. So what I want to say is, so I'm just going to say, saw me a dragon. And then people are going to be like, Eddie's crazy. That's awesome. Like, he's going through stressful things, so he's making up stories.
Eddie's off his medication again.
Exactly. He's having a rough week post-holiday, and he sees dragons. So this was post-Christmas, right after Christmas. I want to say a couple of days after Christmas. And my youngest daughter and I were out and about town running errands. And I'm off of work, so it's like I'm wound down. Things are great, just chilling, sleeping in late, just living life like a hedonistic dad with no direction, no nothing. And so we're driving around, and we're in the western part of Omaha at this point, which is pretty populated for anyone who's in town or familiar. It's like 120th and L Street. Mm-hmm. So it's not like a small little like area.
Yeah, that's a busy spot.
That's right by my office. A little paranormal
It is
juju
right
rubbed
by
off on
your
you.
office. Yeah. Yes. And so
Now I'm going to be looking for dragons every time I go into work. I'll just be in the parking lot looking up. Andy, what you doing? Eddie said there was dragons up here.
yeah.
Andy just took a Uber dragon to work that morning.
I rode Falcor.
Please do it. Oh, that's the business. Falcor Uber Dragons. So I want to preface this with exactly how this broke down. Like, this is, and I was very clear as I was observing this as a paranormal dad, because I went straight into like observing weird crap brain.
Right.
And I was like, this is what happens. Someone sees something weird, they get all emotional, and then they start infusing their emotions into it, and the story changes. So I'm doing my very best, even though that's in my nature, like to be a campfire storyteller. It's in my bones. It's in my bone broth. I can't fight it. But what was happening, this is exactly my best recollection. And this is funny because, like, why didn't you get it on your phone? First, I hate you. Secondly, by the time I fumbled, I have my phone.
Yeah.
It was plugged in, playing music. By the time I grabbed my phone, unplugged it, unlocked it, fumbled to get to the camera, had the camera open, and got it up to the point where I could take a picture, the thing was gone. Mm-hmm. Okay, and it was up enough for me to see it, look at it for about a solid 5-6 seconds, and my brain to go, I don't know what this is, so it's worthy of a photo, right?
Was it so far away it might not have captured it anyways?
I don't know, because it was pretty close. That's the thing that gets me.
By the way, me and Pat have not heard this story, so we're hearing
Yeah,
it for
this
the
is
first
time for us.
First time, because I
Yeah.
told you guys, hey, I saw something weird. It was over the holidays,
Yeah.
and then we were supposed to get together over New Year's. Everybody got sick,
Yeah.
and then and then life carries on, and here's where we are. So the point is, here's this me telling you the story. I'm going to do my best to not embellish. So, Gwen, we're driving around. Gwen, my youngest, literally goes, "Dad, what's that in the sky?" She does this a lot because now, she's into the paranormal stuff.
Yeah.
So she'll see like something completely normal and go, "What's that?" and try to like play. So I'm like ignoring, because I'm like in the zone of like gotta go get cat litter, So I'm like, Gwen, yeah, that's great, Gwen. It's a helicopter or whatever. And she's like, "No, I'm serious. What's that?" And again, I don't fall for it. I'm like, "Okay, Gwen, like, cool." "No, Dad, that's weird. What is it?" And I'm like, "Okay, I give." And I look, And first of all, what I saw was huge. It wasn't small. It was big. And as big as I can compare size ratios, it was so big, it looked like maybe like a jetliner, but like flying at a heck of a low altitude. I'm talking like hundreds of feet, not thousands, not where a plane looks like a little toy. It was so big that it looked like it was like landing. And I'm like, why would a plane that big be landing on L Street? And so my first thought was like, holy crap, that's a plane and it's going to crash. Like that was my first thought. I'm like, she's seeing a plane crash. And then I'm looking at it. And so what I saw, and this is where it gets super like, oh, we live in the Matrix. That's all I can tell myself. We live in the Matrix. It was, so if you're familiar with like winter time or like where we live in Nebraska, sometimes the cloud cover can be real low. You know, and you can almost, it looks like, talk about never ending story. It looks like a movie almost. Like you see the underside of the clouds, they're real fluffy. Yeah. But the super low cloud cover. It was one of those days. The clouds were super low. It almost looked like it was going to snow. But behind the clouds, the sun had come out and it was super bright. So you have these clouds that are like lit up and they're almost starting to dissipate. Like they're thinning out a little bit, but they're like fluffy and low. Above that was this shadow of what I thought was initially a plane, you know, because, you know, you have you're accessing your database, and then I'm looking at it. It's as big as a plane, you know, and it's not like some little crop duster thing. It's huge. And I'm saying it's as big as like what I would be like a JetBlue or whatever. And then I'm looking at it, and then I realize it's going in circles. What? And it's gliding. There's no, like, you don't hear any sound. And I'm looking at it, and the wing shape, the best description I have. So picture in your mind a gigantic bat. Okay. It had the wing shape like curved, and then I even had like scalloped, like on the wing shape. In the sun, it was literally, it had to have been directly in front of the sun because the shadow was so crisp above the clouds. All you saw was this dark mass in the shape of what I can call a gigantic bat that was literally like lazily doing circles around L Street Marketplace.
Weird.
And then it kept, the circles kept getting bigger and bigger, and then to the point where I couldn't track the object anymore. But it was big. And I'm running my brain. I'm like, is that a guy in a glider? If it was a guy in a glider and he was that low, he wouldn't look that big. And if he was that high up in the air, the shadow wouldn't be so dark. And I'm trying to make sense of what I'm seeing. And the best I'm coming up with is, if that's a plane, that's a big plane, and it's so low, you'd hear the engines. Yeah. And clearly, if it's not going to circle, it's going to crash. So probably not a plane, right? If it's a plane that's quiet and I can't hear it, it's got to be a teeny little thing, and it's no way it's that big. And so I'm trying to check off things in my head that I know, and that's and then we're just watching it in awe. So after I saw it for about 5 or 6 seconds, and I'm like, that's no plane, I'm going for my phone, and literally by the time I had the app up and ready to go, it was so dissipated, and so like it had done so many circles that it had kind of just gotten away. But it had never came below the clouds. It's
weird that it was circling. You know, I'm thinking about that location, and I'm thinking Millard Airport is not
Millard
very
Airport
far.
is right there.
I'm also thinking drone. Could it have been some kind of drone? But you're pretty well versed in what drones look like. You use them at work all the time.
Quite a bit. And they're about as big as like the biggest ones I've seen are the size of like tiny helicopters. You know, like like it could the payload on those big drones is like 100 pounds. You know, but this thing is big.
That's weird.
One thing that comes to mind, and I'm not saying this is what it was. I'm just grasping for anything here. Every once in a great while, I'll see, you know, even on TV, maybe you'll see these kind of smaller private planes with big banners attached to the back, almost like an advertisement. You know, they're rare. I think they still do those. Do they fly in circles? I don't know. Furthermore, it wouldn't make sense for one of those things to be flying on a day where it's completely, you know, when it's so overcast. No one's going to see your message, right?
Right.
Now, although it does kind of make sense, something like that circling a shopping center.
That's true.
You could totally get that.
That's true. I've had an office over there. That's where I do my psychic readings and everything, right over 120th and L Street. And Yeah, and not only at Millard Airport, but you have Offutt Air Force Base, not too terribly far away, and
Yeah.
they do
That's
have
kind of the flight path that they take sometimes. You'll see some big Air Force jets kind
Huge.
of flying
Yeah.
from like center 132nd area
Yeah, and
towards
when they
Bellevue.
Yeah, and they do kind of decrease in elevation, like right over my office. So sometimes those military planes are huge, but
it
they're
was circling.
loud.
Yeah.
They're really loud,
And you can hear them.
and
Oh,
you can
yeah.
hear them,
Yeah.
and they don't fly in circles.
And you can hear them before they get that close too. You're like,
Oh,
"Whoa, I hear
yeah.
that!" And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, rah!
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what got me. Was that it was quiet.
Yeah,
Like you couldn't. There was nothing. There was like it was like it should have been a glider, but there's no gliders that I know of that are hundreds of feet across like that. And that would I don't know.
and so you never saw a color; it was just a shadow, right?
Just a shadow and shape. And so that was one thing that got me too. The shape was very crisp, like very crisp.
And you said it almost had little, what do you call them? Like little swoops out of the wings, almost like a bat.
So like the top portion, it was almost shaped like a giant boomerang. That was the shape. So it was like it had the portions that come out either side, and then it kind of curved back, coming back towards, and then it would like come in,
Yeah.
and then up, and then in, and then up. There was literally what I would call like little radii, like the wings had like a shape to them. It wasn't just like this triangle. It was like a triangle that had like some design. Like it looked like dragon's wings. That's the best description I have for it. Like a giant bat.
Let's just cut to the chase. We're talking about dragons that look like a
It
dragon.
looked like a dragon. I mean, it looked like everything in your brain is like, is that a dragon? Like, because I mean, first you're like, plane. No, it's quiet, but it's huge. And then you're like, why would it be so low? I mean, that was literally the logic in my brain is like, chick, 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 chick. And I can't. And then you hit that weird part where you're like, I can't explain this. And nobody else sees it. I'm in traffic, by the way. So I was almost tempted to open my, look up, everybody. Look up. Oh, my God. And then I'm the guy that's getting carried away.
Well, Gwen saw it though.
Gwen saw it, and that was just it. And she's even like, and even she, independent of my like prompting, was like, "What is that?" Like she
Right.
couldn't
Yeah.
put it together. So I get home, and of course, what's the first thing I do is I look up dragon sightings, and sure as anything, there are people across the planet that have reported seeing dragons. Two notable occasions just last year during a satellite launch in, I want to say it was like Scandinavia or something like that. Oh no, it was Nova Scotia.
Okay.
Thank you. Your look is what triggered Nova Scotia. There was a satellite launch, and right before they launched the satellite, everyone observing the satellite launch saw almost that exact same shape that I saw behind the clouds. And
Again, it was
just
behind the clouds. Huh?
behind the cloud cover, and it was a gigantic dragon-shaped looking thing.
Is that the one? There are pictures of it online. There is one where you can see like the silhouette of a dragon online.
I think you're thinking of this one, the dragon that was seen over China.
If that's real,
Yeah.
if that's not CGI, that's the real deal.
A winged soaring creature seen through the mountain range bordering East Asia, a country Laos. And it has sparked some debate online because there's people saying it may be a drone, it may be something, but they saw the
That
wings.
might be the one.
They saw the wings
Well,
flapping and all that.
it's
too,
not
so.
ambiguous. That's either the real deal or a hoax, but it's
Yeah.
not. It's nowhere in between.
Yeah.
That's very clear. Yeah.
That might be the one you're thinking of, Pat. I don't know.
It could be. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of this stuff, so it's always kind of, and with Photoshop and all
Yeah.
this, it's very easy to, and I'm not saying that's what this is. This very well could be real, but I know what I saw, and when we tried to keep wrapping our heads around it, and what I found was so funny, and I know I've gone off the rails with this before on the show, but I'll do it again. I even felt my own brain doing this. As soon as we saw it, and as soon as I'm like, I got nothing. I can't explain what this is. I literally felt my brain trying to like just forget it. It was like, well, that was weird. Time to move on to everyday ho-hum life. And I was like, see, that's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
We literally have weird things happen. Like we could go out in our front lawn and see garden gnomes having a rave in our front yard. And we'd be like, what's happening? And then in the next day or two, we'd find some weird way to rationalize it and just move on with, bills and politics and whatever, Anyway,
I'd much rather see the garden gnomes having the rave than politics. Personally,
True. Me too.
100%. But yeah, I mean, and this is one thing I thought too when I saw it. I'm like, a friend of mine who does pilot our drones at work. He was like, people never look up.
Yeah, and you hear that a lot too.
Yeah.
It's like, especially people who have had weird sightings, they say, spend some time looking up sometimes, and you'd be surprised what you see. Well, we were talking about drones. What the heck was going on in Nebraska, western Nebraska, earlier this year?
This was right on the tail of
and I think that's legit something that was man-made, but everybody's seeing these drones, kind of like armies of these drones flying in, coordinated paths over western Nebraska and Colorado. And it's kind of funny because somebody, I think it was a sheriff in Colorado, said, if you see a van marked with antennas and anything, report it to the police. And very quietly, a few days later, they came out and said, never mind, don't report the van, kind of a thing. So, who knows what was going on. I think there was something going on.
Yeah.
Probably government related. But it's kind of weird that, for a few days, that story was really hot and heavy, and then it just kind of disappeared. Yeah. And people quit talking about it.
Yep. So watch you open up the van door and Mr. T jumps out. 18, fool.
Exactly. We're mapping the phone. We're mapping America, fool. As somebody who literally does this for a living, right? I can tell you this right out of the gate. You have to file a flight path with the FAA. You have to basically if you're going to be near airports, and these things were covering everything. So they were definitely near airports. They were flying at an altitude that was not approved. Like, there's altitudes that even commercial UAV operators have to stick to. They were well above that altitude. And a lot of things that point out that these things were operating outside of the law. And so either A, what you're saying, it's basically a government thing that they've got a carte blanche to do whatever the heck they want to do, or B, it's something even more like clandestine than that. But certainly, like, there's definitely some weird parts to this, but I'm with you more than anything. It's more than likely military drones that have a specific mission that they're doing that basically, if you don't need to know, you're not going to know.
Well, and once you see, once you look up enough that you see something weird, whether it's odd drones or a dragon or a UFO or even a shooting star, it makes you want to keep looking up more and more. I'm guilty of looking up too often when I'm driving. And there's been a couple times I had to pump the brakes extra hard because I was too busy trying to figure out what that light was in the sky. It looked even just last night. It had just gotten dark, and my daughter and I were going to run an errand up the street, and just for a brief second, I saw a huge light kind of through the trees, and it was too low to be a street light or anything like that, but it was huge. And then we turned the corner. I tried to get a better look at it, and it was gone. So I don't know what it was. Just big, huge, bright light. Yeah, could have been a plane that changed angles or something. I'm not sure, but keep looking up, folks.
Keep looking up. Keep those cell phones handy, and please don't use your phone while you're driving.
That's right.
And there be dragons.
A public service message from Paranormal Dads.
It's time for pop, culture, and the paranormal.
So one of the topics I've been looking at for a main mystery, and I believe it will still happen one of these days, are werewolves.
Ooh! Oh! One of our favorites, Andy.
Dude.
I've been kind of into werewolves lately, and what we're talking about today are the best werewolves in pop culture.
Yes.
If you were single, that should be a pickup line you use on somebody. I've really been into werewolves lately.
As you have a Teen Wolf shirt on.
Exactly. Yeah. Just like filter them out right out of the gate. Like, if she goes running, she's not worth it.
So kind of the bulk of my material here is coming from the Huffington Post, and a contributor by the name of Mels Van Driel. He's an author. And he wrote an article about the best werewolves in pop culture, and I'll put a link out on the website in the show notes. But the first one he's talking about, and most of these are movies, are Dog Soldiers. Have you guys ever seen that one?
No.
A lot of these movies I haven't seen, but I want to go back and watch some.
Is that from
movies.
the 80s?
I don't have a date, but what it is it's set in the Scottish Highlands, and adopted kind of a soldiers versus werewolves theme. So it almost kind of
Awesome.
sounds like, oh gosh, what's the name? With the blue people.
Avatar?
Avatar.
Yeah.
Kind of an Avatar kind of a thing. You got
Nice.
soldiers fighting werewolves. It adds just enough humor to ensure it doesn't take itself too seriously. And these are the words from the author. And that makes it for a hilariously scary offering that entertains throughout. Any film that can get the lines, "Here, boy, fetch," and "Werewolves ate my platoon" into a werewolf film and still remain viewable is worthy of anyone's vote. So
Nice.
Wow.
that sounds like fun. We'll have to look that one
Add
up.
that to the list.
Dog Soldiers. That's what
Dog
that's called.
soldiers.
The next one, American Werewolf in London, which
Of
is probably the
course.
first werewolf movie I saw. This was actually one of the very first movies I saw, like in a home video disc viewing. So I saw this back in the early '80s when people were just getting these in their homes and
Nice.
VHS type things. But
Back when they were like $900.
right, my neighbor had a video disc. He had 3 discs. He had what's it? Time Bandits.
Yes.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
had Time Bandits, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and an American Werewolf in London.
3 choices.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we watched those 3 movies pretty regularly. But so this movie's like over 30 years now. But the film, actually, it's probably even older than that. But the film still delivers a perfect package, high levels of horror and enough humor to keep its feet on the ground. And the makeup effects are second to none for its time, which was like the early 80s, late 70s, something like that.
Because I was going to say, in that movie, don't they actually show his transformation
Yeah,
into a
the
werewolf?
one thing I remember is his hands just stretching out,
Yes.
and into these claws, and
Yeah.
watching that, and I'm like, that's the one thing that really impressed on my young
Yeah.
brain was
I-
the transformation scenes.
I remember part for me was seeing his muzzle stretch out from his
Yes, I
face.
remember that too.
And I think
the
even
hair
part of-
coming out.
Yeah, that was, and there was like some blood too. Like he's ripping
Yeah.
through his own skin.
Right.
And as a kid, I remember being so.
Did you soil
horrified.
yourself?
No, because I think like it went to a different dimension. Like that's how bad my poo poo like left my body into it. I was just sitting there just transfixed, not because I was loving it. I was just like horror. You know, when you're just
Yeah.
like, it's like a train wreck. You just can't keep your eyes off of it.
So the film was directed by John Landis, and he got the idea of the film after seeing a group of Yugoslavian gypsies performing a burial rite over the grave of one of their deceased.
Man,
Naturally.
So
That's where I get all my good ideas
yeah,
from.
the
I'll
gypsies.
chase more gypsies.
Because of his background research, this is an intelligent film with just the right amount of gore.
Yep.
Yugoslavian gypsies. That'd be a
Yugoslavian
good
gypsies.
band name, wouldn't it?
I want
It
to live.
would be.
I want to live Jonathan Landis's life when you're just like casually observing.
I don't think I'd want to. Wasn't John Landis? He was involved in Twilight Zone. Wasn't that whole helicopter scene where those actors were killed?
I think so.
I think Landis was involved.
somehow
in that.
involved in that. Maybe I don't want to be.
He also did the Blues Brothers,
Right?
I think so. But yeah, I don't
Man.
know. Anyway,
Take the good with the bad on that one, I guess. But yeah, great.
so
one.
another one's called The Wolf Man. It was remade in 2010, starring Anthony Hopkins and Benicio del Toro.
Benicio.
Benicio. Sorry about
Benicio.
No, you're fine.
that. As the cursed werewolf beasts. This modern version brought the werewolf into the 21st century. Although the noble effort by modern standards, it struggles to match the original Wolfman performance of Lon Chaney.
That was
Junior
a
back
recent
in the
one,
day.
wasn't it? That was only maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, it was like 2010.
Yeah, I didn't mind it. I know it was a little bit rough, but
I don't think I saw that one, but
dog.
Rough, rough.
well, we got to bring the dad jokes on Paranormal Dads,
Exactly.
don't we?
Coming in strong.
There's also a movie called The Howling. Are you guys
I
familiar
remember
with
this
that
one.
one?
Hey, it rings a bell. Don't know if I've seen
It
it. though.
was described by one critic as the silliest film seen in some time. Most would agree that it's still a pretty scary film that helped change the direction of werewolf horror into a much darker territory. The Howling managed to blend good old-fashioned terror with subtle references to werewolf classics. So,
Man,
now this is an interesting one. It's a movie called Ginger Snaps.
I like me some ginger snaps.
Well,
And that's what happens when a redhead gets mad.
stay tuned, because this is finally proof that werewolves are not exclusive to the male sex. Ginger Snaps was a coming-of-age romp that used the werewolf as a metaphor for female teenage puberty. Ginger is at once sexy yet deadly, as reflective of the troubles of being a teenage girl as Teen Wolf is to being a teenage boy. So it's basically about a young teenage girl becoming a werewolf and dealing with
Transitioning
puberty all at the same time.
There we go.
Yeah. This sounds exactly what it is. The female counterpart to Teen Wolf.
Yeah, and
Michael J. Fox.
speaking of Teen Wolf, Teen Wolf was starring Michael J. Fox as a high school werewolf. It's referred to as a comedy, but as any teenage kid knows, being an outsider at school is no laughing matter. Still remains an influential offering within the genre and was inspired for a loosely updated version developed by MTV in 2011. So we just watched that fairly recently.
Not too long ago.
Teen Wolf.
Yeah, we had that viewing party, didn't we?
Yeah,
That was awesome.
At Eddie's house. Yeah.
Yep.
that was fun.
Hung up a bed sheet and used a projector and projected it on and popped some popcorn. All of our families snuggled up and watched Teen Wolf. It was great.
Learned some fun trivia too, that it was partially filmed in Fremont, Nebraska.
Yeah, that was the funny part because it was set and a lot of it was filmed in Fremont, I believe.
Yeah.
But then the scenes where he's surfing on his car, you see palm trees in the background. I can
Exactly.
guarantee you there's no palm trees in Fremont.
No, but there was like Husker stuff everywhere.
Yeah, yeah,
and you're
yeah,
like,
it was
okay,
funny. Yeah.
And that was the idea, right? That it was supposed to be. A
It was
small
supposed to be
Midwestern
set in Fremont, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
palm trees. You done messed up, Teen Wolf.
of course there's Twilight, but Twilight's best known for its vampires, but Jacob Black makes for a very pretty mean werewolf that would give any self-respecting vampire a run for his money. It's a pretty close call, but sure, Jacob's hardened muscles and fierce bite just edges out Edward's limiting need for the Factor 50 sun cream.
Either way, I was Team Jacob all the time.
Were you?
I was.
Little Wolfie, huh? It was his abs.
It was his
His
abs.
freaking abs, man.
It was his abs.
Washboard abs.
And it's the classic romantic story where it's like, you could have this guy who's really probably bad for you, or a guy who's going to love you and treat you right the rest of your life. Who does she pick? I choose danger. I choose danger. Of course you do. Of course you do. Sorry, a little bitter there. Team Jacob.
So one of the last ones that this author mentions in his article is Little Red Riding Hood, but he's actually talking about the whole, all the books, the children's books of Little Red Riding Hood, and so this wolf in Little Red Riding Hood has been a cultural icon for a long time, but it's kind of interesting to think of him in the sense of him being a werewolf. Usually you just think, well, it's a wolf and he walks on two legs and he eats grandma but yeah, you can kind of see.
I mean, he has a full conversation
he's
with people.
Yeah, he's pretty much a werewolf.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if Hollywood tried to do a legit scary movie like of the story of Little Red Riding Hood? It'd be pretty
Well,
terrifying.
they did.
I think they
did.
have.
Oh,
Yeah,
did they?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So it's okay. A movie was part of that package deal.
There's like a
when
horror
did it
movie.
come out?
It was fairly recent.
recent.
I'd say within the past 10 years
Yeah.
or so.
Have either of you
10
guys
years
seen
or
it?
so.
I didn't.
It's been on my radar, but I haven't seen it. I don't run to the scary movies, but
Yeah.
But we should. Hey, let's add it to the list. No, Red, don't do it.
Oh, Grandma, what big teeth you have.
Exactly. Man, Red, how nearsighted are you? How
So-
ugly's Grandma?
So one that I added to the list was I Was a Teenage Werewolf. This is a 1957 film starring Michael Landon. So Paul Ingalls was once a werewolf.
Yes.
He starred as a troubled teenager in this movie, and the premise of the film was that there was a hypnotherapist that used the temperamental Landon as a guinea pig for serum, which transforms him into a vicious werewolf.
I remember the
So
name.
this is an old drive-in type movie, from the
Yes.
50s, and good old Michael Landon.
Do you guys ever back in the 80s, I believe it was, there was one that came out called Silver Bullet. And I think Corey Haim is in it.
Okay.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was cheesy as all get out.
Yeah.
Then I remember watching it with a couple buddies. We were probably 10, 11, 12 years old, kind of making fun of it,
Yep.
But it was kind of typical 80s, cheesy movie. And I just remember there's something about there was a kid in a wheelchair and they strapped like a rocket to his back so he could I think it was like to outrun the werewolf or something.
Makes
But
sense.
of
That
course,
tracks.
Silver Bullet. said
Almost sounds like a response to Lost Boys back then,
Yeah,
because that was a big
exactly.
vampire movie back
Yeah.
in the 80s. So I wonder if that's what it was, if it came before or after that.
Silver Bullet.
Silver Bullet. Yeah.
Was it brought to you by Coors?
It should have been.
So one more pop culture reference I got to throw in there is a game I've been playing a lot lately, which is the only game I pretty much ever play. Is Skyrim.
Yes, we all go back.
And so, I've been playing that a lot lately, and there's a whole werewolf scenario that you play out, and you become a werewolf as part of this group called the Companions.
Yes.
And so you can, collect all these, weapons and food and things laying around in the world, and then it all gets too heavy and your character starts moving really slow. But you can change into a werewolf and then just run like a dog back to town.
Yep.
Untransform yourself and then store everything away, then go back out and have another
trick.
adventure.
That's it.
It also comes in handy if you get overwhelmed by people in a fight. You become a werewolf and you just rip the shreds out of people.
Just run a rough shot over everyone. I love it.
So what about you, Eddie?
We should do a Skyrim episode because and I don't think, Andy, you've played much of any of Skyrim. Really.
Skyrim is by far my favorite video game ever.
Is that and I could be wrong, but is that the video game where it's like unlimited space where you can like
Pretty much.
Dang near.
Yeah.
I mean, the map is so big.
It's such a huge map.
you could fly for years and years and years like through the game?
No, you're thinking of it's a space game.
Okay.
That's it'll come to me in a bit, but no, Skyrim is set in this fictional like medieval Lord of the Ringsy style world, and it's all very like adventure quest based, very D&D kind of thing. Like I gotta go chop off this witch's head and save this village,
right? And there's dragons all the time.
Hey, see, maybe this is Skyrim.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, love Skyrim. It's a fun one. We could talk about it. I mean, that'd be a fun episode. Yeah. So for me, it's not a werewolf specific movie, but there was a movie in the 80s also that came out called Monster Squad. And it was kind of an answer to Goonies.
Right.
Because Goonies is like, these kids have a pirate adventure. And it's like, these kids discover that Dracula and the Wolfman are real. And so it's very Goonies in the sense that each kid kind of has like a gimmick, and they call one kid like an insulting name as come on, candy kid, and kids running around with candy falling out of his pockets. I mean, but there's a great scene in it where the guy that plays, if you've seen Napoleon Dynamite, he plays Uncle Rico, but he is the Wolfman in Monster Squad, and as a human he knows he's a werewolf, and he's freaking out, calling the police, telling them, I'm a wolf man, come and get me, stop me from killing, stop me. And they're like, haha, this guy's crazy. And then he's like, oh, and he starts turning into a werewolf, and then they go to stop him and nothing can stop him because they're not using the right kind of bullet. So they're like, there's one scene where they stuff a thing of dynamite into his pants and they push him out a window, and he's like, ooh, and he blows up, boom, and you just see, of course, 80s, you see like arms and a head and a torso, and they all just come together. Shook, they all like,
comes back together.
He's not dead, and he jumps up, like cracks his neck. It's really good. We should watch Monster Squad before Halloween this year.
It's just a flesh wound.
Exactly. And so, but then he convinces somebody. Like, he's like, I'm a werewolf, kill me. And so they end up killing him.
With a silver bullet?
I think so. Something like that. Anyway, that's
Bunch of
my
rookies
personal.
trying to
Nice.
stab him in the chest with a stake of, wood.
Exactly.
You dummy, he's not a Dracula.
Hitting him with holy water. He's laughing. Sniffing a fire hydrant.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pat.
So
that was a good one.
All right.
Yeah. By the way, if anybody is interested, not to send you to a different podcast, but I'm a big fan of other podcasts as well. And I've just been binging werewolf podcasts lately. There's one I can't get enough of called Dogman Encounters Radio.
Oh.
I was kind of on the fence about werewolves and that kind of stuff. Try to be open-minded to listen to this show and hear firsthand encounters. I believe now.
Really?
100% believe in
I'm
them.
writing this down.
We're going to...
As future guests.
Yeah. For the record, on this date, Andy said he believes in werewolves.
Right. Call hospital. No, I saw dragons, bro.
You saw dragons, bro. All right. Well, thanks. That was a good pop, Pat.
From the opulence and excess of Beverly Hills to luxurious destinations around the globe, it's time to rub shoulders with the privileged and successful among us, as Paranormal Dads now offers you a look into the paranormal lifestyles of the rich and famous.
Megan Fox, best known for her roles in the Transformers franchise and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, is also a believer in all things paranormal. Fox said in one interview she believes Bigfoot sightings are scares because it is intelligent enough not to be found. and she 1000% believes that UFOs are real. She also had a ghostly encounter one morning in a hotel in Mexico. She said she was sleeping when at 7 a.m. she awoke to the sound of room service being delivered to the main room in her suite. She had requested room service for 7:30 and was somewhat annoyed they delivered her morning coffee early. 30 minutes later, there was a knock on the door, and it was room service again. She looked around and noticed there was no sign of the dishes and coffee she had heard being poured earlier. Her nanny, who was also in a different room, had heard the phantom breakfast being delivered as well. Fox has also appeared as a commentator on the History Channel's Ancient Aliens, and produced and starred in the Travel Channel's Legend of the Lost with Megan Fox. The 2018 show featured Fox investigating some of the greatest archaeological mysteries, including Stonehenge, Viking women warriors, giants, and the mysteries of ancient Troy. For the Paranormal Dads, I'm Pat, and this has been another Paranormal Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous.
And now it's time for the main mystery.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines. No, I'm just kidding. Welcome to the main mystery.
Ooh.
And for this one, call me lazy, call me repetitive.
You lazy, repetitive psychic.
When we initially did part 1 of this main mystery, we said there was going to be a part 2. Here's part 2. And I don't remember what we called the last one, but basically the creepiest things that kids say.
Ooh.
You know,
Nice.
What was that show back in the day? Kids say the darndest things.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so this is basically our equivalent of kids say the creepiest things.
Lately, my world has been, Dad, I need gas money. Or my car's making a funny sound. That's been the creepiest for me.
Finances are always terrifying. Right?
Talk about paranormal.
Paranormal. How fast the money disappears, right?
Exactly.
I reached in my wallet the other day, and it's like, I thought I had a few 20s in here.
Nope.
They're gone.
Exactly.
Well,
I
what
didn't bother looking for them.
just figured they disappeared into the ether
Yep.
with your socks out of the dryer.
Yep. Saw a kid shuffle by with a burger in their hand. You're like, yep, there it is.
There it is. So what I did the other night, I threw up on my Facebook page, my business page. You can look it up under Psychic Medium Andy Myers if you're interested. But I just said, sometimes I run out of ideas on what to post. I try to post every day on my business page, and I, after so many years, I think I've posted just about everything I can think of. So sometimes I'll just say, tell me something cool, share something weird. So the other night I said, what's the creepiest or strangest or wisest thing that you've ever heard a child say? And we had a slew of comments come in, and I just kind of went through and picked some of the best ones. But as I showed you guys, there's too many. So we're just going to have to kind of sift through, and due to time restraints, I'll throw a couple out here.
So these are like user comments.
These are user comments.
So
these are already public. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just gonna tell the person's first name because it's not like it's private or anything.
Yeah,
It's
you asked and they told.
Yeah, that's
There you
right.
go.
So Aaron, one of the people, chimed in and said, when my grandmother passed away, my son, who was 3 at the time, told me, "No, Mom, she's not in heaven yet. She's in between still." And then just ran away to play, totally unbothered by it. And he would also tell me our dog, who had just passed, visits him. Same kid told me another time, he said, "Hey, Mom, remember the time when I was in the hospital? I was a little girl in a wheelchair and I died."
Whoa.
Past
There we go.
life?
There we go. Past life.
Past
That's what
life?
my vote is.
Yeah.
All right.
I was scared when he said Grandma's not in heaven. I was like, oh,
She's looking a little toasty.
ooh.
All right. And some of these, admittedly, there really is no other rational explanation other than kids perhaps remembering previous lifetimes. And selfishly, that's one of my absolute all-time favorite paranormal, metaphysical, spiritual subjects. But more common than you would think. Kids remembering being in a different place or time, or living as a different gender, or living as their parent's parent, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Somebody named Amy wrote in and said, "OMG, I don't even know where to begin. My kids have all said wild stuff." I'm just thinking of us, like join the club, man.
Yeah, right. Yeah, support group.
But she said when my son was little, he would talk about the guy hanging in his closet.
Oh.
No.
Ugh. My oldest daughter, when she was little, would call people by colors, such as the blue lady, the red man, etc. And my middle daughter, when she was younger, told me about getting into a car accident with her last mom. And my youngest daughter, who is still little, says all sorts of wild stuff, like she used to be big, but now she's little. Sometimes when she's mad, she tells me that I'm not her favorite mom anymore. And non-paranormal related, she also says that Harry Potter is her boyfriend.
Oh,
Nice. How convenient.
got a wizard in the family now.
Speaking of
Yeah,
dragons,
well
what was
paid
it?
one probably.
Right.
He's got a few movies out.
Exactly.
Well, what was that game they played when they flew around on broomsticks? Was it Quidditch?
Quidditch.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine if you had a dragon playing Quidditch.
Did you see that they had a Quidditch tournament in Omaha recently?
I did.
Last fall or
Yep.
maybe even early winter.
I was actually invited to come check it out, and it was just I couldn't get down there. But yeah, it's people running around on broomsticks playing
It's like
Quidditch.
Creighton and
Yeah.
Kansas State, like legit colleges
They-
there.
they take
was
it
kinda
serious.
Funny, yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Christina chimed in, added to the conversation. She said, first thing that came to mind happened with my oldest son. He was around 3 and we were just at home doing nothing, and he asked me if Aunt Kara was okay. And I said, sure, she's fine. She's with her friends. But my son was persistent, and so I called around. This was before cell phones, and I was able to reach Kara. Turns out she was in a potentially dangerous situation with her friends, and our call to her was like a lifeline. And she made a good choice to get out of there, but I was amazed, wondering how my son knew that she was in
That
trouble.
is weird.
That's awesome.
That's very
You
strange.
just felt the disturbance in the force, and
Yeah.
was like, gotta call
Yeah,
him out.
acted on it.
Intuition,
Good for
man.
him.
Spidey senses.
Yep.
Yeah. Pretty much. I mean, seriously, if a 3, 4, 5-year-old kid says something, you might want to listen to it because, in my opinion, right around that age, they're kind of at their intuitive or psychic peak.
Yeah.
They know things that we don't. May, a lady named May, chimed in saying, very soon after the birth of my second son, I had an quote-unquote accident at home, and so I ran to the bathroom. My first son, who was 3 at the time, asked if I was okay and came into the bathroom, and I explained, well, Mommy had an accident. And with a straight face, he responded, it's okay, Mom. Those things happen to older women. It's normal.
Nice.
And I was left with my jaw on the floor, and I couldn't stop laughing. And she said, I think commercials are too informative these days. But again, so not all these are paranormal. Some are just the wisest, strangest, or funniest things a child has said.
It's pretty empathetic, though. Don't worry, Mom.
Don't worry,
Yeah.
Mom.
I
It
won't shame
happens.
you.
Oh, here's one, another past life one, perhaps. Cindy said that when my daughter was around 3 years old, we were sitting on the couch next to each other, and she turns and looks at me and says, remember when you were my neighbor and I used to come over and visit all the time?
Nice.
Doesn't that add? I mean, not just that one thing, but doesn't that another story like that, as they continue to pile up, kind of get into the whole people who are in your life in some capacity may have been a different relationship in a previous life?
Yeah, it does make you wonder. And it makes me wonder, the thought of soul groups, which is basically the theory that, some people in your circle of close friends and family have maybe incarnated in multiple past lives with each other in different capacities. So, maybe in a past life, me and Eddie were brothers, and maybe in a past life, me and Pat were coworkers, and maybe in another past life, we were these swashbuckling, 3 musketeers kind of
Yes.
characters.
Where did we work? What did we do?
What did we do, Pat?
We were bakers, probably.
Ooh, yeah.
Andy would take all them
This
the
sacks of flour.
sacks of flour, throw them over his shoulder. That's why his back still hurts from
back
time
still
to
hurts.
time.
Carried over from a past lifetime. Because Pat wouldn't help me.
I was the
Pat's
guy.
so lazy.
I was just taking a bath in Bavarian cream.
There you go. I was the guy buttering the buns.
Butter the buns.
Get
Eddie
those
got-
alien buns.
He's going to butter your buns. Ashley said, when my son was 4, he was in a tragic incident. He coded 3 times in the helicopter and once in the emergency room. And when he woke up from his coma, he told us that a man held him for the entire helicopter ride. He was actually intubated and nobody was holding him. We later found out that he was talking about my grandpa who was holding him, but my grandpa passed away before he was even born. So
That's interesting.
kind of one of those angelic stories, So it's nice though, because spirits come in all shapes and sizes.
That's just it.
Some hang out in your closet and scare you, and some hold your hand when you're having a traumatic incident.
Man, Just don't know who you're going to get sometimes.
It's like the roulette wheel of paranormal.
I was going to say, if I find myself like coding, I hope I get the guy holding me and not the guy hanging in my clothes.
Yeah.
Why are there horns on your head, mister?
You're the wrong one.
Gee, mister, you're scary.
Gee, mister, your horns are sharp. Why is it so hot in here?
Why is your tail pointy?
Why are there fields of okra? It's the one vegetable that grows in hell. That's
Is that right?
it's a fact.
I did not know that.
I thought it'd be Brussels sprouts.
I thought it'd be like jalapeno peppers, or maybe even ghost peppers. or
There you
something
go.
That's
like
Eddie's
that.
idea of heaven,
That's
though.
heaven for
That
me.
would,
Yeah.
exactly.
Except for when it comes out the other
I was
end.
going to say until 8 hours later.
Till the next day.
Tanya said that my grandson, when he was about 4 years old, told me out of the blue when we were going to bed that he was on the red planet before he was in his mommy's tummy, and that he had to come to Earth because the water was gone, but that they had come here before to plant trees. He was very sincere and very matter-of-fact, explaining how it all worked. Basically, he had come to Earth before, and now he chose to come here. I wish I had recorded him that night. Occasionally, he'll tell me other details as well.
Ancient aliens.
Tell you what,
Sweet.
a fellow brother from the red planet. I think there's something to that, dude.
I mean, God, what was that? What was that movie? I think it was called Red Planet. Back in the day, 90s, and at the end of the movie, unless I'm thinking of that Val Kilmer scary one, but I think it was called Red Planet. And at the end, you find out that Earthlings are descendants of Martians, and they came here and messed with our genetics, and they're peaceful. And I mean, Eddie's shaking his head. Yes,
I do. That's where, like, if you're like, Eddie, what's the weirdest theory you got? I'm like, I kind of think we're not from Earth. I think we're from a different place. I think we're from Mars.
I think it's entirely plausible.
I think we ruined Mars, and we're like, oh crap, we're not gonna all make it. We got to send at least a couple hundred of us down to Earth so we have a fighting chance. All right, the rest of us are dead. Go.
Question is, where do we go next?
Yeah,
Right.
we're on two. We're screwing up our second chance,
Yeah.
man. We're gonna be on to our third.
That's what we do.
3 strikes, you're out.
Exactly.
Another Cindy said, my granddaughter was about 4. You see a trend here, guys?
Right.
My kid was 3. My granddaughter was 4. 3, 4, 3, 4. That's the age that kids usually are when they say this stuff. My granddaughter was about 4, and in the house where his great-grandfather had passed away a few years before, she pointed up the stairs towards the bedroom that he died in and asked, "Who is that man, and why does he keep looking at me?"
Yep.
That's how it all starts.
That veil.
Chris, it gets thin in some
so
places,
thin.
man. Yeah. Kristen said that my son slept in his bed perfectly fine until he was 4 years old, and he said that he's... I'm going to wait to say this until you're done taking a sip of that drink, Eddie.
Spit take.
He slept in his bed just fine until he was 4 years old, and then he said he saw Chucky in his room.
Hot and sweet tamale.
And he had never seen that movie, obviously,
Hey!
or even knew...
Who Chucky was.
No
Chucky
idea.
was.
No idea.
Wow.
Doesn't our friend and fellow podcaster Billy, doesn't he have a tattoo of Chucky?
I don't believe he has a tattoo of Chucky per se.
Was it a Jason? Was it that
He's
Jason?
got Jason. He's
hockey
big
mask?
into Friday the 13th. He likes that quite a bit. But yeah, there's no Chucky on him. But I think that he has several Chucky full-size dolls in his house.
Oh, I know what I'm thinking of. Didn't his kid go
Yes.
Halloween
Oh,
as
yeah.
Chucky?
As Chucky.
had him
Yeah, that
fully
was,
tr-
that was
And he was
cool.
like 3, and he was in a full Chucky outfit.
Yeah, they had him head to
It
toe.
was well done.
It was well done.
God.
I made me cry.
Here's one that'll make you feel warm and fuzzy. Jennifer said that my grandmother loved to play cards, and her favorite color was always blue. And a few weeks after she passed away, my son, who was then 4 years old, woke up one morning and told me that he had a dream that my grandmother and I were playing cards, and she had blue wings, almost like angel wings. So that's great. More places to hide the ace up your sleeve, right?
That's what I was saying. I win.
If you ain't trying, if you ain't cheating. We'll do a couple more of these. I mean, there's just so many.
When you said warm and fuzzy, I was afraid you were going to be like, and then Chucky had a fur coat on. No,
And then it was a werewolf with extra fur.
it was warm and fuzzy.
Cheryl said when my son was 3 and said that his friend Ryan, who we couldn't see, had come out of the wall. And when he left us a year later, my son said that Ryan's grandmother came to take him home. Maybe Ryan was a ghost. Just saying.
It was Ryan Seacrest.
It was Ryan Seacrest.
He was busy. He was astral projecting to that kid to hang out.
His hair was immaculate, though,
His
wasn't it?
teeth were great.
Yeah.
Kim, every single one of these. My kid was 3. My kid was 4.
Gosh, it's a
3 and
magic
4.
number.
That's a sweet spot.
Kim said, my 3-year-old and I were sitting outside on the deck one afternoon. It was sunny and breezy, one of those gorgeous days when you feel thankful to be alive. And the weather was that perfect. And he turned his face up to the sun and said, Mommy, do you feel that? That's God blowing a kiss. Aww.
That's sweet.
Isn't that nice?
A little too sweet. I don't trust that kid.
I don't trust that kid.
Does he have a Chucky in the hallway?
Stacy said, when my daughter described a man that she saw in our house, the description was exactly like her dead grandfather that we had no pictures of and that she had never met. So
There you go.
Grandpa was still hanging around.
Go home, Grandpa. Go to heaven.
Go play in the fields of okra.
Go to the okra fields. Ew. I'm just saying, it's leathery and hairy on the outside, and inside, gooey seeds. Who?
I think my idea of heaven is jumping in like a ball, one of those ball pits, filled with, I don't know, M&Ms or Reese's Pieces or something like that.
That don't melt?
Yeah.
Because then you get all melty.
Yeah. No, but then then a luck dragon just comes and
Scoops you out?
Yeah, scoops you out and flies you on your way.
Chocolate-covered luck dragon.
Also a good band name. Chocolate. If the 3 of us had a band, that's what it would be called.
Chocolate
We
covered.
should start a running list of all the band names we come up with during shows.
I'm writing this down.
Chocolate
Put it in
covered.
the journal.
What was that one from earlier?
We'll have to go back and listen to it.
Yugoslavian gypsies.
Yes.
Chocolate covered luck dragons.
Dragon.
All right. Carol said, my son, when he was very young, would say, Mom, do you remember when I used to be a man? So he was remembering being older, maybe from a previous life. Kathy said when her daughter was 4 years old, she told me that she used to be a famous singer, but her husband killed her.
Oh.
I'm going to set my phone down for a second. Can you guys think of a famous singer whose husband killed her? Because I'm thinking sometimes kids say things that can actually be validated or referenced or
I
researched.
don't know of a famous. I mean, and that's kind of a loose term, but like
That's true.
Yeah.
fame on what level? But I can't think of anybody who I know full on. Who's,
Nothing jumps to mind. I'm thinking, was it?
I was thinking Whitney Houston, but that was just a domestic abuse situation. Right?
No, she died.
It was an overdose, right?
Yeah. Trying to think like I know Phil Hartman died, but his wife shot him.
Yeah.
He wasn't a singer.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone, this is your homework assignment. If you can pinpoint what this kid may have been talking about, famous singer killed by her husband, let us know.
Yeah, those kids are going dark.
Yeah, I went dark really fast. So many of these guys. So many of these.
Hit us with one more.
One more. Okay.
Grab a good one.
Emily said that. Let's see. One of her kids said, "Who are the guys in the basement?" But the only problem is it was only her and her 2 kids that lived in the house.
Guys in the basement.
That's the rub.
And there's more, but I don't know.
That's a 20-year-old boy who lives next door.
Exactly.
His parents kicked him out. He lives in our basement.
Yeah, he's paying his rent.
There's Mountain Dew cans everywhere.
Don't make me feel bad.
And Doritos.
So thinking back, I mean, childhood, anything can be scary in your childhood. A shadow on the walls. I remember as a sensitive kid living in a house that was super haunted.
Yeah.
I mean, there was times where I'd have my whole bed full of stuffed animals, and I'd literally pile them so high intentionally to cover my face from the closet because I was kind of afraid of whatever was in the closet.
See some creature.
Yeah. Well, and you watch Never-Ending Story too many times with all those creepy characters. But...
Oh, that wolf Gamok just staring at you.
Oh,
from
was
the
that his
dark.
name? Oh, that's right.
Gamork.
Even the name's creepy.
Yeah.
One of the most terrifying times that I remember when I was a kid, one of the most terrifying bedtimes I had was, back in, the 70s, 80s, they had these stickers that you could put on your door, and it said the neighborhood watch, don't come to our house.
Exactly.
There's people watching you kind of a thing. That was kind of
The scare tactic.
a scare tactic, right? So you'd stick them on the outside of your door. And I remember these stickers being orange. And then there was kind of like this whimsical burglar kind of shape.
I remember that.
And so I was in bed one night, and the neighborhood, the neighbors next door, they had like a floodlight that came on, and all the trash cans were. It was like a low level bedroom, so my room was actually below the ground, and you kind of there was a window up a little ways up the wall. And right outside that window were all our trash cans. Yeah. And so this floodlight came on and kind of projected the shape of some trash bags onto my window. Oh. And it kind of looked like that sticker, like the burglar. Oh, no. And so I'm looking at that and I freak out. It's like, oh my God, there's a burglar out there. And I run and get Mom and tell her there's a burglar. And Mom comes in and opens up the shade, and here's this black trash bag sitting there outside my window.
Oh man!
But
being a kid,
hey, even still being an adult, sometimes you hear a bump in the night, and things get creepy.
Like you go, you do the patrol around your house. With
you can't call Mom anymore either.
Exactly, Mom's not looking. It's you. It's I got to be the one to look.
Yeah.
I was a kid. And I may have shared this story on the show before. I'll share it again. And I still can't reconcile this. And this is where, like, either I legit have lapses of sanity, which we
you do see dragons, so
which we haven't ruled out. But I wasn't 3 to 5. How old were you, Pat, when you had that happen?
Oh, I'm guessing, probably 6, 7 years old, maybe.
Yeah, I'm about the same age, I think. I want to say 7 or 8, and we lived in upstate New York near this gigantic forest that was at the base of the Adirondack Mountains.
Pretty squatchy.
Kind of squatchy. Mm-hmm. But this is where it gets weird, because the people who have told the story too are like, well, maybe that's a Sasquatch story. But I'm like, I don't think it was, because it was... Anyway, so I heard like a commotion in the living room. And I got up, and I remember this vividly because we had like terrazzo, like tile floors, and so the floors were super cold. And I got up, and feet hit the ground, and I was barefoot, so I felt the cold floor. And so there's all this tactile stuff to this memory. It's not just I remembered seeing something weird. So there was cold floor. There was me trying to be quiet because like I didn't want to like wake up my whole family, but I also heard a weird sound. So it was this weird thing of like not running around the house, wake up everybody, I heard a burglar or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I go into the living room, and there's a long hallway that leads to that has all the bedrooms with it, and even my parents' room was right there. And I remember even thinking as a kid, like, oh, don't make a lot of noise because you'll wake up Mom and Dad. So I go down the hallway, and I get into the living room, and I see this like furry, weird shape, and it's hiding. It's like hunkered down in the corner of our living room by a lamp table, and it sees me because I can see its like face through its fingers. It has its hand up, and I can see like a face, but the face isn't like it's like ugly. It's like not like, oh, it looked like a Bigfoot. No, it looked like a monster. Like it was not and it could, I remember thinking like, oh God, like it sees me, but I don't think it knows that I can see it, because it was like hiding. It was trying to like get tiny in the corner. And I'm sitting there as like a 7-8-year-old standing in the living room looking at this furry, brownish gray thing that was probably only about this high, like 2.5 feet tall, but kind of chunky, like kind of big and fluffy, and it had its hand up over its face. And as a kid, I remember even thinking like, what is like this, like terror is going through my body. And so I just was like, okay, that was weird. And I literally just turned around and walked back to my room, almost like I was like under some sort of weird spell. I'm not kidding. And I go right into my room. And I remember thinking, if I don't freak out, it won't freak out, and everything will be fine. That's what I remember as a kid thinking.
All right, that's way scarier than anything that we just read.
I thought I told you guys this story before.
I don't remember if you told that one or that. How were you able to go back to sleep?
I don't know. I remember laying in bed horrified with the covers like up, and I remember just staring up at the bunk bed, because my brother and I had bunk beds, and I was staring up at the bottom part. And I remember at one point like poking his bed, trying to wake him up.
Hey dude, there's a gremlin in the living room.
Some monster, there's a troll in the living room, and he wouldn't wake up. And I remember getting like increasingly frustrated that I couldn't get him awake, but I didn't want to make a lot of noise, so I just laid there in terror. And I think eventually sleep just overcame my little frame, and I woke up the next day. And I remember thinking when I got up in the morning, like, oh my God, I'm going to look and I'm going to see this thing still, or I'm going to see some evidence that it was here.
Right.
Nothing. So it's like sleepwalking. I have no history of any of that, but it was a very weird memory.
It was the grumpy old troll that lives under the bridge.
That's what I'm thinking.
Time to call Dora and Boots and get him
the
on.
grumpy old troll who lives under the bridge. That's some dad mode right there. You take that to the bank.
When I was little, so many kind of creepy, weird things happened. And I grew up in a house kind of close to Miller Park, right along North 30th Street there in North Omaha. And my mom, I mean, as an adult, I kind of came out of the psychic closet and started, being more open about my experiences and intuitive stuff. And thankfully, come to find out, my whole family is super open-minded and have had their own experiences and everything. And my mom finally shared with me and my sister is something that she had never told us, thank God, as children. But my mom always slept with her bedroom door open, and so from her bed she could see the whole length of the upstairs hallway. And she told us that it happened on several occasions, but she would just wake up and she would look out into the hallway, and the entire hallway, floor, ceiling, and walls was glowing a red color. And when she first told me that, I mean, you mean like a car headlight? Maybe that was driving away?
Yeah.
Reflection? She said, no, it was like an internal glow, like everything was red. And I was thinking, like, thanks for not telling us, A.
Right.
But B, like, how do you go back to sleep after that? And, she was fully awake, rubbed her eyes and, sat up on her bed and just could never explain it. So...
Yeah,
it's the
weird.
portal to hell.
I don't know. Those weird things
weird.
happen. And you just kind of, like I said, I have school tomorrow.
You got to pay the bills.
Anyway, thank you, Andy. That was a lot of fun. Thank you to all of Andy's fans on his Facebook page for submitting all your stories. So those were great.
Yeah, we'll probably do more of those in the future too, asking people for, specific, what's the weirdest ghost thing? Has anyone seen UFOs? Stuff like that. Because the reality is a lot of people have. And for anybody listening, if you feel like you're kind of all alone in your journey and interest in the monsters, myths, and mystery, believe me, you're not.
Yeah.
Strike up a conversation, share a story with a neighbor, a friend at work, and you'll be surprised at how many people have their own things to share with you. So...
Well, and heck, share your story with us on our Facebook page, and we'll be happy to read it if you want us to. We can certainly share that when we open this segment up again and talk about, strange things that you've experienced,
Awesome. And if you do have a story and you want to submit it, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can email us, which is paranormaldads@gmail.com. Mm-hmm. And we always enjoy engaging and giving feedback to you all.
Thank you to freesounds.org for providing all the special effects and sounds and music that a lot of the stuff we use on our show. Appreciate that. Go check them out.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Keep your eyes to the skies just in case you see a dragon.
Ooh.
Yarg.
Word.
I don't know why I went pirate mode there.
That's good. There's a thing like, better be dragons.
Better be dragons.
That's the whole thing.
Ding, 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 ding. Hey, see, we're not even rusty.
No, not even rusty.
What the hell is this
Do
thing?
you like my pencil topper?
No, it's the stuff of nightmares.
So he's basically He-Man's answer to Bigfoot.
Nice.
And I bought an alternate head pack.
Looks like a kinky toy. You could do some serious tickling with that, dude.
Well, you could, but I think of it as Bigfoot with a bike helmet on. That's what it looks like. And so I thought he's a perfect pencil topper.
Eddie's the prop guy. Do you know that every
Yeah.
show that we record, he brings some goofy
He's
thing.
got something new.
Yeah.
I'm like the Gallagher of podcasting.
Yes.
Although it does you no good because you can't see this.
Don't bring a watermelon.
I'll
Jeez.
send a picture. I busted open and ghosts come out of it. There's a new season of Ancient Aliens we've been watching. It's a good one.
Is the guy's hair this big now?
No, he toned it back.
What?
Yeah, so he got the email.
No.
He saw he was
got
getting
the email.
memes. He saw enough memes and was like, I think I need to
Okay,
tone it back.
I'm going to clean up my act.
But it's a weird mix on that one because I feel like some episodes they've just kind of done to death.
Yeah.
And other ones, it's like, oh, that's cool. I didn't know about that one. So it's just it's such a mixed bag.
Yeah.
But anyway, good old Ancient Alien. Ancient Alien.
Alien.